This video is going to give you an overview of how to do a basic setup with the most frequently used formatting pieces in MLA or APA style. One thing that you want to do is open Word and choose a blank document, and it will bring you to this page that may or may not have defaults set up. It depends on what computer you're using, what changes you might have changed, and settings that you might have created, etc. So we're going to walk through them really quickly. First of all, when you open up a new document, it brings you to the home page where you're going to be able to set up some of your basic format features. So first of all, we want to look at the font, and you'll see this whole section here relates to fonts. Now what you can do is if you click on that button here, it's going to open up a dialog box that opens all kinds of options for you here. Now most papers are going to want you to use Times New Roman 12-point font. So you're going to go into the text and you can either scroll through or you can actually type and type Times. Choose Times New Roman. You want it to be regular. You don't want it to be fancy, italic, bold, etc. And you want it to be 12 points, which is the size of the font. You don't want any other settings to be here. You don't want it to be a color. You don't want it to be fancy. Again, remember, you're being asked to use a standardized formatting scheme, so you want to keep it to that scheme. So this is what it will look like. It gives you an example. And if you want to make sure that all of your papers always have that so you don't have to reset it all over again, all you have to do is click Set as Default, and it will ask you, do you want it for this document or all documents? You just choose all documents. Okay, that means no matter when you open up Word, it will automatically be Times New Roman 12-point regular font. So that's going to be your fonts. Nice and simple, easy to follow, easy to change if you need to do so. Another one of the features that they want you to use in terms of MLA or APA formatting style is going to be your spacing. So the other area you have here is called paragraph. Again, you can choose the bigger option to get the overall dialog box. And if you look here, you'll see there's indentations, you'll see there's spacing, and then line spacing. Well, you want to make sure that you have all of your paragraphs, your entire paper should be double spaced. So what you want to do is remove all of these options. They should be at 0. Whoops. Your line spacing should be at double spaced. And you do not want to add a space between paragraphs. It may look like that in books that you read or even textbooks, but that's not appropriate when you're talking about submitting papers in MLA or APA style. So all of your text should look like this, where it's all double spaced. You also want to look at your tabs and see what they're set at. The default tab is 0.5. You want to leave it at that. That's how you're going to indent your paragraphs. So hit OK. If you want to make it a default, again, you come back, you keep those settings the way you do, and you choose Set as Default. Again, it will ask, do you want it just on this document, or do you want it on all documents? And you hit OK. So we haven't typed anything yet, but we know that no matter what we type, it's going to be Times New Roman 12-point font, and it's going to be double spaced without extra space with paragraphs, which is really important. So you want to make sure that that's something that you're maintaining for your documents, because then you won't lose points for something as silly as a basic formatting feature. Another pretty standard format requirement you're going to have is to have 1-inch margins at the top, at the bottom, on the left, and on the right. So how do you change the margins? Well, you're not going to be able to do that from the home option. You're going to need to do that here in page layout. So in page layout, you're going to see an option here for margins. So you can click right on here for margins. And again, you can choose the different settings that you have, or you can click on custom margins and it will give you the dialog box just like the others have. It gives you whatever your measurements are. If they were not 1 inch, you would put 1 inch for each, and you would choose set as default. Again, do you want it to change it for setup for all documents? Yes. So now, anytime you open Word, your documents will be double-spaced, Times New Roman, 12-point font, with 1 inch margins all around. Now, if you have those all set as defaults, you can spend your time focusing on the content of your paper and the information that you need to really pay attention to, which is the details that your instructor's looking for the body and text of your actual paper. One more standard feature that you should be aware of is to know how to insert a header or a footer. So we're going to go to yet another new menu on the ribbon, and that's going to be Insert. And again, it's going to be very important for you to know how to do this properly, because if you just start typing on the paper, it's not going to appear correctly, and it's going to be very obvious to your instructor that you didn't use the proper formatting features in your word processor. So again, in Word, we're going to choose Header or Footer from Insert. So when you click on Header, you simply choose Header, and you click on blank, and you would type whatever your header would be. Now, again, depending on the formatting style, it will ask for different things. Some teachers may not even be specific, but if they are asking for MLA or APA, it will be particular. So you want to make sure that it meets the same features as the rest of your paper. It should be Times New Roman. It should be 12-point font. It shouldn't be anything fancy. You shouldn't have any lines under it or any other options. You don't want to use any of the stylized features that you would have in terms of a header. So you would type what you want, and then you would move it wherever it needs to be. So for example, if I'm going to say it's my last name and the class, oops, and you want it to be right aligned, which would be on the right side of the page, what you would do is, again, you would come to the home page for alignment, and this is where you choose alignment from the paragraph. And that would be left is where you're going to write your paragraphs, right might be where you put your headers. So it moves it over there. Don't just use the space bar or the tab bar. Use the actual adjustment that you need from there. So that's how you're going to insert a header. Same would be true if you need to put in a footer. You would put Insert and Footer, and you would choose what you want from there. Now again, please do not use the ones where you have a border or it's banded or anything fancy like that. Your instructors just want to have the basics, which is following again the MLA or APA format where it's simple text in a particular location. So that's how you would enter a header and a footer properly on your paper. Now to get back to the body text, you can just simply double click and it removes you. If you need to edit the header, you can simply double click on it again. So let's go to the body. I'm just going to show you a very simple example of how your paper again would start and how you can fix it so it's meeting the MLA or APA standards. So we're going to say this is a paper about my intended career. I am writing about becoming a college professor and the educational requirements and job outlook for that field. So as you can see, as I was typing, it automatically double spaced for me, and it is in Times New Roman 12-point font. But we all know that when you start a new paragraph, it should be indented. So what I need to do is click at the beginning of the paragraph, and this is where, remember, we set our tab, made sure it was at 0.5, which is half an inch. All I have to do is hit the Tab button and it indents my paragraph for me. So I can keep typing. I did research on websites. I spoke with an academic advisor, and I completed an informational interview. Let's say that was the end of my paragraph, which it shouldn't be. You shouldn't have just 2 sentences in a paragraph. But now I'm going to start a new paragraph. I hit enter, and look what happens. It automatically indents for me, and I can go ahead and start my new paragraph. To begin with, etc. So you can see it automatically does all of that work for you if you set those defaults. So take advantage of being able to do so and really just focus on the content of your work and what you're working with. The only other things that I wanted to point out to you in terms of Word very quickly were word count and spell check. So you can notice right here at the bottom of the page, it gives you the word count. But if you click on it, it opens up the dialog box that tells you how many words and how many paragraphs. Again, even if you're only writing a 1-page paper, it should be more than 1 paragraph. So when you see paragraph and it says 1, you might need to get another set of eyes to look at it to help you with your structure and how you work with it. The other is spell check. So that would be a new menu. You would choose Review, and this is where you're going to be able to choose spelling and grammar. It will run spell check for you. If there were any problems, it would point it out to you. Plus, it would also have squiggles under lines. So I will just put here, it gives you a red line if you have something spelled wrong. The other thing that's really helpful, I use all of the time, is you don't want to use the same word over and over and over. You don't want to say something is very, very dark, and then it's very, very happy, and then it's very, very optimistic, or whatever it might be. So you want to try to increase your vocabulary. So one of the other options they have is a thesaurus. If you click on there, you can either type the word that you're looking for and say very, and it gives you a lot of different options for a different way to say very. Or if you actually highlight a word and choose thesaurus, it picks up the word and it gives you the options from there, and you can change it and move from there. So again, another great tool to help you vary your language a little bit and expand your vocabulary. Hopefully this was helpful, and it will help you get set up with the nice basic elements of both MLA and APA formatting. And the details are more on the formatting guides that you can find on the research guides and on the OWL Purdue.